Everyone, we are going to call our meeting to order. It is 7:01. Can we have a roll call for members present, please?
Shaquille Ali.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here. Clayton Fu.
Here.
Rebecca Douglas.
Here.
Manufu Leaiga Anuahi.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to ask Dr. Douglas to lead us in our pledge, please.
Let me rise. Raise the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. At this time, we will review our board meeting guidelines. This is an opportunity for the board members to review the board meeting guidelines and report how well they adhere to the meeting guidelines at the end of the meeting. Good. Thank you. Before we move on to the approval of the agenda, there is request to remove 18A from the agenda.
18A. This is such a good agenda.
Okay.
18.
That is a public employee discipline dismissal release to be removed.
Okay.
So with that exception, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll
I
make
move that.
a motion that we approve the agenda as modified.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous. And at this time, we will open up for our public hearing at 7:03 p.m. And the first item is public hearing on 2018-2019 Local Control Accountability Plan. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comments on the Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP. The LCAP is an accountability plan that requires districts to disclose how local control funding formula funds are spent to provide high-quality education programs. Do we have any speaker cards? No? Thank you. All right. Item B, public hearing on district reserves in excess of minimum requirements. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comments on the district reserves in the excess of minimum requirements. Do we have any public comment cards on this item? No? Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Close. Sorry, that's right. The first one closed at 7:03 and a half p.m. Opened up B at 7:04 p.m. and closed at 7:04.1 p.m. We open up C at 7:05 p.m. Public hearing on fiscal year 2018-19 proposed budget. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comment on the fiscal year 2018-19 proposed district budget. And do we have any public comment cards for this item? No? All right, so we are closing out public comment at 7:05.5 p.m. Thank you. Thank you. So we've now closed out our public hearing. At this time, we will move on to our special presentations. We actually don't want to move forward with this part of the program. We'd like to postpone it for a little bit longer, for another year maybe?
No.
Not happening.
Well, at this time, our Jefferson Elementary School Board would like to recognize one of our very own, retiring board member, Dr. Rebecca Douglas, for her impeccable service, not just to the board, but to our district and our community. And we would like to start with you, Marie, and then we will go to
Okay.
Trustee Ali, and then over to Clayton.
Okay.
Trustee Koo.
So we're going to do this after. We'll do this after. Do this now?
You can start it. It's up to you.
Okay. We thought very much of, well, first of all, to say that you've done a tremendous job here. The 8.5 years you've been here, and that we look forward to many of your insights when you're going through all those board, what do you call them at the end? All our bylaw things and policies and everything, and you're right there telling us if it should be a
punctuation, anyway.
yeah, punctuation and stuff. But aside from that, your dedication to education, and we appreciate that very much, and all that you've done for all these years. And it doesn't seem like it's coming to an end right now, but it is. And I know on behalf of everybody, I want to also say that we wish you all the happiness in the world, and I know you love all the traveling and what you're going to be doing. So we just got a couple little things here for you. We got 2 cards because we couldn't decide on one. Decisions are hard to make. But we also thought that this little goodie bag would be something that you might want to use as you're climbing the mountains and backpacking and what have you. So we got trail mix.
Oh, I was going to say chocolate.
You might find, no, I don't think there's a chocolate in here, but it's trail mix.
Okay.
And then we have something that we thought would be appropriate for you, and this is a little ledger, a little book. So as you're walking and you come across a snake that's in front of you or something, you can write little notes about this, and then maybe one day these notes will be your next book. She is an author, sells books. It's mostly for children, but we're kids at heart. So if you do anything like that, you let us know, and we'll buy the book.
No, I assure you, the PTA murder mysteries are not for children. Those are for the moms.
With that, I'll pass it down to Rebecca, and then I think I've said enough, so I'm going to pass it on to Shaquille.
All right. So thank you so very much, Dr. Douglas, for your leadership and for being the voice of reason most of the time up here. But yeah, have as much fun as you can. Get some rest too. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Shaquille.
I wanted to say it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you on this board for the past maybe just 2.5 years, maybe not 8.5 years, but your knowledge, your love for the school district, and just always being able to provide a different perspective on this board, I think we truly missed. And I just want to say thanks for everything.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Certainly going to miss your voice of reason, your insight, and for me, your leadership. I've been able to learn so much from you and your ability to navigate our board, and I'm going to definitely miss your smile and your friendship. But I think it's wonderful for me. It's a gift of hope to see someone retire from the work that they have done in the community, and to be able to move on to the next chapter of your life on your own terms. I think it's just wonderful to be able to witness that. So that gives me something to look forward to. And I'm trying not to get emotional, but I'm very, very thankful that our paths have crossed. But I wish you all the best in everything you do. So take lots of pictures so that you can continue to take us on to all the journeys that you will continue to enjoy. All the best to you, Rebecca. All the best.
Thank you.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Before you speak, you need to hear from me. So on behalf of the district, I just want to thank you for your 8.5 years of service to the school district. Those 8.5 years have almost coincided with my years here, and I know I've appreciated you at each and every board meeting. You're certainly going to be missed. You have many positive qualities. But for me, most importantly, I think your sense of humor. I get it. I get your sense of humor. Your thoroughness in reviewing documents, especially our board policies, and random MOUs that we send that are not punctuated correctly. Thank you. I will ask you to please review from wherever you are, because our agendas are online, and you can always get me that information. and also for the personal support that you've provided. I think you and Dave are going to have a great time. I want to wish you a happy retirement. And we do have, on behalf of the districts, some small and potentially useful items to recognize your 8.5 years. I know in the past you've always wanted something to be useful, not just something that will hang on a wall or something that has no use. So hopefully we've met that criteria.
So it's particularly important since we may not have any walls for a while. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Those are beautiful. I can open that. Oh, yes, I'm sure. Okay. It's tissue paper.
That's reusable.
It's wrapped very well. It's very well wrapped. Oh. Not sure what.
Nice.
You want to read it?
That's awesome.
Says, Rebecca Douglas, PhD, thank you for your outstanding and dedicated service as a trustee of the governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District, 2009 to 2018. Happy reframing. And I love that you used one of the old pictures where my hair was all red. Is that the screws to hang it with?
No, no, no.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful pendant. Yeah, keep your hands off my bling.
That's too close.
That's all right, don't let Brett see that. I'll let you guys all take a look down there. Lovely. Thank you. And now I have to try to frame my words as we teach all the children to use your words. And it has been my pleasure and honor to serve on this board for the last 8.5 years, to work with amazing people on the board and on the in the cabinet. I realize that I have presided on this board over the hiring of each one of you four. Yeah, it does start to make me feel old. And you know, when people like you talk about feeling honored to serve with me, I am humbled, because I feel much the same way. You know, that I'm the one who's being honored by being allowed to serve with you and to learn from you. I've been part of this district since, what was that, about 2001 when our eldest started school? I'm looking at my husband out there and he doesn't know either. Sometime around that point. Followed a classic trajectory through the PTA. Showed up at a meeting I was told was going to be a one-time meeting at the district office about maybe we should float a bond issue, and found out that I was on the committee to run the campaign. Things kind of went on from there. I owe a lot, and we all owe a lot to the people who helped get me into this position, I think. Melinda Dart, who tracked me down in Colorado and while I was on vacation and made me come back in time to run. LaShonda Sma, who was serving on the board at that time and was also a strong voice in persuading me to serve, couldn't be here. And of course, owe a lot to my husband, Dave Dempsey, back there hiding in the back, who has supported me through all of this, and all the evenings, even when our kids were little, where I took off and disappeared for this, that, and the other thing to do board committee commitments, and has always been my best support in everything I've done for the last 25 years. So thank you to all of you. I'm sorry to be leaving you. I'm really happy to be retiring and going out to adventure the world and reframe my life. So I'll leave it on that bittersweet mixed note. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. can save this for, if, sorry. So we have communications at this time. If we have any further board member acknowledgements or commendations, and we will start with Trustee Koo. And then we'll start with you.
Sure. I did want to say I went to the Tobias, they had their Founders Day tea last week, which I think is a little bit off of when the PTA Founders Day is actually, but it was a lovely event. I went, it was great to see some amazing stuff that's going on there, including parents writing grants to get funding to help support their Safe Routes to School and Walk to School activity, which made me, I almost stood up right in the middle when they were talking about that to cheer, because of course that's really meaningful to me. So just that puts me in a mood to thank all the parents in all the schools who are working really hard to make things happen above and beyond what we as a board and a district are able to provide. That work is super important, and I think we cannot overestimate how important it is to have those parents who are working and supporting the students and doing all of that.
Thank you. Trustee Koo?
Last Monday, I think, everyone on the board, we attended the Youth Cinema Project and P. Brown's movie showing. Amazing, they had a red carpet. Ms. Brasuela brought them, I think, trophies or chocolates or something like that.
Too.
Yeah. But they did an amazing job. The films were incredible. Knowing that someone who's 10 years old can make a movie that great is pretty amazing. And hopefully that's just the beginning of more to come. And then also I attended TRP's spring dance performance. As usual, it was amazing. I was there with Ms. Brasuela, and it was incredible as usual. So I just want to highly commend all those students for that as well too.
Thank you. Trustee Brasuela?
We have a lot of things. We've been really busy doing a lot of things. I went to the art fair at TRP. It was like they had visions of what they wanted to do, and they put it in the form of art. It was amazing. It was really nice to see. And it was things about not smoking, not drinking. I mean, all those kind of things that you're trying to teach children to lead a better life, or not to get involved with things like that. But they put it in the form of art. It was amazing what they did. So I enjoyed that. So they called it the photo gallery, I think it was called. And then we did go to San Jose on May, I think it was the 29th. And we looked at the movie screening, not only of our students, but also of other places like Sacramento and different places that came also. So seeing what everyone did, not to be prejudiced, but ours was the best. It really was. It was beautiful. And they even kind of took us aside and told us that they were proud that we had done so well. So that was really amazing. And the children got to go, and they rode, and I went on the bus with them. That was another fun thing, to go on the bus with them. I'll tell you, 30-something children on that bus, the most well-behaved and polite children that, I mean, I was proud to say they were our district. They were wonderful. And so we went down there, and then we, watched the film and everything. It was pretty hot, and we kind of had to wait outside a long time in the heat, but we didn't care. We did it. So the children were very proud to see their work up there. And the way they did the filming, you saw the film, and then it shows you all the the credits. So who the producer was, who the director was, who the actors were. And it was amazing because they were so proud to see their name up there. And so naturally, the parents that did attend to that also, they got to see that as well. So, and they did that the same when we went up on top of Mission Street to see the premiere filming, where the kids got to come down and have their family or friends come see them. So I went to the dance performance at TRP, and I've been going to their dance performance ever since they started. They keep getting incredibly better every year. It's amazing. And I went both nights. I couldn't help it. I enjoy it so much. And a big thanks to the dance director, Ms. Frias, because she puts more than everything into doing that for the students. Ben Franklin, I went to their 8th grade graduation dance, and that leads me to show you how when you go to do one thing, it leads to another. Because when I talked to the school secretary, Lori, she said, oh, guess what? For the first time, we're getting a red carpet for the school dance, which I attended at Ben Franklin. And I said, a red carpet, where'd you get it? Because I want to get one for the filming up on Mission Street. So she goes, oh, I got it for nothing, you can have it. So I said, okay, so just wait after the dance, and we'll put it in your car. I didn't realize it was that much. It was 3 big rolls, but okay. I figured anything to get something free like this for our kids, we'll do it. So we put it in the car. Anyway, I covered it up because I was thinking maybe someone would think it was for a house. They might steal it out of my car, but it stayed there. So the dance at Ben Franklin was amazing. The students looked great. The parents were very proud of their students. But I have to say, guys, things haven't changed since we were kids. Because all the boys over here, and all the girls over here. That's how it is at that age. But they do get together and they talk and they, but it was like, things haven't changed. Then May 31st, we had the Employee Recognition Day, which is absolutely awesome. Just to be able to congratulate those that have worked in our district for a long time. Although it starts at 5 years, 10 years, and so forth. But when it came up to did we have a 40-year, right?
We did.
When it comes to 40 years, they all go, what?
Oh, 35. Yeah.
Oh, 35, oh, well, my sister already retired, she was 40. But it was the ones that are only 5 years are like looking at, what, 35 years? It's kind of an incentive to say, stay longer, guys. And then I attended. This was a really nice event that happened, and PTA Council got involved in it, and so they asked me to attend as well. So I went to Thornton High School for the first time. PTA Council adopted them, so it was the first time that they had a graduation lunch. And we hope that we'll be able to do more for those students because, they're kind of just out there by themselves, and we need to support those children as well. So that was a really happy day. And then, so back at the theater, I just have to say that at first it gave us a small theater to use, and then they turned around and said we have a big theater, kind of the last minute. So we desperately trying to send out messages to people. It's free, come on down and see the kids. So we got a few people coming in. But if we had the bigger theater, we would have filled it up. But it's okay. So we went down and put the red carpet out. We also looked all over town to find gold stars. We found them, put their names on it, put it on the wall, so it looked like you're walking into the Academy Awards or something. And the kids were excited about that. We reminded them the parents to take the stars home. And that's when I decided that I saw this little cute thing, and it's 3 stars, kind of representing the other stars. And it's a little rose, and it just told them that they can take this home as a souvenir to save, to remember the day that they were highlighted at the theater. Unfortunately, my dear friend here, she looked at it from far away. It was standing there, and she didn't know. And so she said to the students, be sure to pick that up. She goes, it's a special little treat. I think it's chocolate. It's plastic. And so right away I was panicking, and I said, no, it's not chocolate. Don't eat it. But it was kind of comical at the end of the day. So I just have to say that, Rebecca, I think probably you'll agree that the one thing that we will always miss is all the fine things we do with the children and the fine things that we see that they can do because we are there to give them a helping hand. And this was really part of it. So I hope that we'll continue with this film. And I think it's time that we put in a plug. It's time that we now go out and look for the big sponsors that are going to help us get to what we're going. Because we were the only school district in San Mateo County or even around here, except for San Jose. San Jose and Sacramento were the other 2 places that got to do, I don't mean San Jose, is it Santa Rita?
Alum Rock.
The school district, Allen Rock, but it's
Santa Clara School County.
Yeah, so those are the only places that got to do this film and this filming. And I think we need to go ahead and get sponsors so we can continue and do more classrooms and have it, because they're hoping that we will continue to do the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and eventually branch into the high school. That's what their program does. So I hope that'll be something we can try our best to do. Okay, sorry I took a lot of time, but it was a lot of work.
Thank you, Trustee Buswella. Trustee Ali?
No. Pass.
Yeah, I think as shared by other trustee members, there's a lot of wonderful things that continue to happen in our district. So I just want to commend everyone that continues to be involved. And usually when we get to the end, we don't always have everyone with us, at least physically. So I wanted to take this opportunity to continue to congratulate all of the graduates throughout the county and our families in the community, and also wish all of the fathers and father figures a happy early Father's Day this weekend. So now we move on to correspondence from our superintendent.
No correspondence these last couple of weeks, but as you mentioned, graduation promotions ceremonies started today for many schools with the youngest students, but tomorrow continue with our 8th graders at our middle schools. We're excited about that, and we wish them a wonderful future in our high school district. And just really grateful for another safe year in our school district at this time.
Thank you. Administrator comments?
Yeah, well, I guess it seems like such a long time ago that we had open house, and three weeks ago at this point, and I was able to go to SBA and JFK, and that was delightful. And then tomorrow and the next day, we're having graduation already, another year gone by, and these kids going on and other kids coming in, and I'm looking forward to the new year. And also, I just want to say, Dr. Douglas, it's been really, really wonderful to work with you. And you riding your bicycle all over the place and hiking all over the world, and instilling that into your 2 sons that have also had a lot of adventure. And I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope it's wonderful, and I hope you can come back and tell us about it.
Thank you.
I want to also thank you for your service on the board and your leadership. As you said, you've been here since I've been here as well, and so I've just appreciated your the comments that you make. They're very thoughtful. The way you express yourself is really respectful, and I just really appreciate how you present yourself on behalf of the district. And I've also appreciated all the insights with the SIPSAs and giving us, oh, did you miss it? Because I'm a grammar, I consider myself a grammar queen as well. So I appreciate that, a like-minded soul. And then, just all the events I attend with you, it's always, I seek you guys out. And so, it's always, I appreciate your sense of humor as well, and just participating in all the events with you. And so I wish you the best of luck. I'm very jealous of what you're doing, actually. We've talked to you about that. I'll be kind of doing the same when it's my time as well. So I just want to let you know that I appreciate everything you've done, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Well, I guess might as well continue on that note. Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, and for all your service here. But my 1 year when I was at Fernando, you were a parent there, your old son was there, and I actually remember the orientation. You may not remember this, I'll bring it in the audience. He asked me, so who was Fernando Rivera? And I'm like, oh wait, Fernando. Somebody reminded me who he was not too long ago, and he wasn't. He didn't have the best history, best service record. I think I answered it okay, but just building upon that relationship professionally in front. Thank you very much, and congratulations. Also, I do want to say thanks to all my colleagues. We did have an Employee Appreciation Day. That really is every day. We all work so hard, and they work so hard. We're coming up to the end of the year, and it's crunch time with just getting everything together, and I really appreciate all their help and patience and flexibility and input as we prepare our schools for summer cleaning. That's a big work project, and a lot of moving parts, and everybody's really been flexible with me, and everybody, so thank you, and the painting that's going on, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. So at this time, we have persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. And the maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. And at this time, we do have 2 speaker cards, and the first is for Paul Hagan, AFT President. Oh, did I get this? Yes, AFT President, who would like to come up and share a few words with us.
Hi, good evening. Paul Hagan, AFT 3267. Actually, I am speaking on something that's on the agenda. I'm actually going to go back a little bit to item 7, special presentation, and on behalf of our past president, Melinda Dart, myself, and all of the teachers, all of the employees in the district. Just like to thank you for your service and for serving our school district with intelligence, dignity, respect, humor, and heart. And I had to limit myself to 5. I could go on, but thank you so much, Dr. Douglas, and live long, prosper, and you will be missed.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Our next speaker is Pamela DiGiovanni.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice President, board members of the community. I just wanted to say that thank you to the board and everyone that was involved in the wonderful movie premiere for the children. It's nice to see that this district continues to thrive and have these great, beautiful minds that are growing, and that to expand that, to let people know. We do, like Ms. Brasuela said, we need to let people know, and it's not bragging, but it's just a fact. And that, you know, to let people know so that we can know, hey, we're over here, you know, we're always waving. We're Daly City, we're JESD over here, don't forget about us. So luckily, you know, we do have people that didn't forget about us, like David Canepa, our Mayor Manalo, and who appreciate our public schools and that continue to serve. I want to thank Dr. Douglas because I always saw you as a bright spot in the community. I would see you ride your bicycle at Trader Joe's. You would run in and be a real example. People cannot say that you're not the example because you actually were doing what you said you were going to do and promoting that for children and making sure. And it sounds like it's taken off, unfortunately, as you were leaving. But wish you the best, Dr. Douglas, and your husband. You worked hard for this. You have a beautiful family. Your kids are grown, and like everybody else, a little envious that you get to do this. Kind of like, but you're a great asset, and the library will be missing you as well as a bright sunshine when they come in there. And at the library events, I don't know if people really know that how much you put into your dedication. You didn't have to, but you did. And that means a lot, and you will leave an indelible mark in this district and in the community. And I want you to know that people in this community really appreciate it. So I appreciate your service and continued, and please at least drop by and let us know. You can write another book about your journey. We would love to have that. That would be great. So, and thank you to everyone here in this great school. And thank also at the COC, I found out that thank you for keeping the kids safe, the surveillance cameras I learned about tonight. I appreciate that, and the community keeps the children safe. So you guys are taking steps beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments from the community that continue to celebrate the wonderful service of Dr. Douglas. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I was reminded by the executive director of the Commission on the Status of Women that we will be celebrating the women of North County at the next meeting, which will be held at Skyline on June 26th, and the meeting starts at 6:30. And I think it's important to mention that Kalima Salhuddin, who is on our high school board, will be speaking, and I know that one of the women of North County that we will be mentioning and celebrating is Dr. Douglas. Yeah, so our presenter is Kalima Salhuddin. So, yeah, so I did want to mention that, and it's everyone is invited to join that meeting on June 26th at Skyline College at 6:30. So thank you again. So at this time, we will be moving forward to general functions and looking at our consent agenda. And before we move to approving it, we have a request to remove item 9D from the consent agenda for clarification, and that is revised MOU for the, is it CAVA or CAVA at San Mateo, or MOU with CAVA. So we will be removing that item. If there are no other items or issues, we have a motion.
I was
wondering, if we leave the star on 10A, then we can't make a comment on that, can we?
On,
The director's here,
Or you
and I
can
should
make
say
a
something
motion.
about it.
did you want to remove that one?
Yeah, did you
10A?
vote on
Do we have a additional request for 10A to be removed,
it? Just the
to be,
star.
just the star, so that we can open that
Get
for-
clear. No.
for discussion, for an open dialogue. So moving forward, the request then is to approve the consent agenda with the removal of 9D and 10A. And if there are no other edits, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing item 9D and 10A from the consent agenda.
Thank you. All those in favor? Do we need a roll call for this one? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Do we need a second?
We didn't have a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we have a second? I apologize. So we
I'll
had.
second it.
Thank you, Trustee Ali. I apologize. So we do have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm moving too fast. All righty. So we will look at the revised MOU with CAVA. The administration recommends the governing board approve the attached revision to the memorandum of understanding between Jefferson Elementary School District and CAVA at San Mateo.
Yeah, a revised MOU was uploaded to Agenda Online earlier today, but I made a copy of the exact changes that happened. They're mostly periods and missing words, and you can guess who caught them. So I did highlight them for you. The first one starts on page 8. It's a capital letter instead of a lowercase letter.
Yeah, Bernie,
But
I read this so many times, and I said, where are the changes?
yeah, yeah. So there you go. So and it is being updated by the request of CAVA at San Mateo, based on requests from the Department of Education. It doesn't change the substance. It just makes it consistent with all of their other MOUs.
Did we have any questions? Do we have a motion to approve the revised MOU with CAVA at San Mateo?
I'll make a motion that we approve the revised MOU with CAVA at San Mateo.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now we are looking at item E, administrative appointment, 2018-19. The administration recommends approval of the following administrative appointment of Elizabeth O'Neill, Principal, Westlake Elementary School, effective July 17, 2018, with the Step 3 salary of $123,950 plus $1,100 for MA degree. Do we have
I'll make a motion.
any
That we-
questions?
We have to do something, don't we?
I was, that's what we're gonna say, but, okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the administrative appointment of Elizabeth O'Neill as principal at Westlake Elementary School, effective July 17, 2018. Well, IMWMA, Step 3, $123,950 plus $1,100 for an MA degree.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So as you know, we're incredibly lucky and helpful and lucky and helpful. No, lucky and thankful.
There we
There
go.
you go. Thankful. Thanks for the word. Sometimes I skip my mind. Thankful for Ms. O'Neill to be joining us as a principal. Several years ago, when schools got additional funds, we created positions that would be pipelines for principalships internally, and Ms. O'Neill was one of the first to take advantage of that opportunity, and our efforts and have paid off, and she has been selected by her staff, selected by me, selected by you to serve as the next principal of Westlake. And so, Ms. O'Neill, if you would like to say a few words, please come forward. We'd love to hear from you.
Wait, I'll be right back.
So thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say thank you. And thank you, Matt, for taking a chance on me. I appreciate it very much. Really excited about this opportunity. I love working for this school district. I love all the adults working with it. I love the students. I love every capacity that I have been lucky enough to be a part of. So again, thank you very much. I was fortunate several weeks ago to spend a couple days at Westlake, and I told Annabelle, there's no changing your mind. It's too late. I've been here now. You cannot step back. You cannot change your mind. And I would also like to commend you, Dr. Douglas, on your years of service. And on a more personal note, I want to say how much I enjoyed working with you when I was a teacher at Tobias, and you were a PTA parent. And if you are in the area, I am going to be first up to reserve you as an author talk at Westlake.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll make a point of it.
So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
All right. So now we move on to our ad hoc committee, the item for ad hoc committee for reviewing eligibility of board trustees candidates. And the board decided on pursuing a provisional appointment to fill Dr. Rebecca Douglas's seat as it is at its regular meeting of May 23rd, 2018. And the board will consider selecting 2 members to serve on an ad hoc committee to determine whether applicants meet eligibility criteria. So we are opening this up for discussion. Do you have anything you wanted to share?
Yes, well, this was on the agenda at the last meeting. We're supposed to do it jointly, and we skipped Part B, so we brought it back to see, first of all, if the board determined, there's no requirement that this committee form, but if the board determines that there's a need for this, that then we would go ahead and appoint 2 board members to meet with me and Ms. Kovarai and to go over the applicants. To make sure that they meet the eligibility criteria of being registered voters in Daly City and review the work that we did to present them.
Did we have anyone that?
Well, I mean, it's. I know when you're reading, when you say it and you read it, it sounds like it's something you have to really look at. But the only thing you have to find out is, one, that they're 21 years of age.
18.
Oh, 18, excuse me. That's right. I had to wait till 21. No. Anyway, that you're 18 years of age, that you live within the school district. So it's not really like having this big task of finding out that do they qualify, but those are the things they have to meet. So it's up to, if you guys want to say 2 people look at that, it's fine. I don't think we did it the last time, did we? No.
I believe we did it when Ms. Ainga Anoa'i was, and Mr. Koo put in their applications. We did hold, 2 people met with me, I forget who, but we affirmed together that these were eligible candidates.
Okay.
So,
Who wants to do it?
since you're saying it's not that big of a task, do we even need to do it then? Wouldn't
Well,
that just take more time?
It will take time, but if you feel the need to do it, I'm open to do that. But it's not required or necessary if you believe Ms. Kovarai's thoroughness, and I do all the time. She calls the registrar of voters on every applicant to verify their eligibility.
Okay.
So,
Trustee Ali, did you want to add to that? Is that something you?
I don't feel a need for us to do it. That's the only thing I have to say.
Okay. Do we?
I think I just
Wanna
wanted to
concur?
say it out loud to make sure that the public knows that we're not screening them like we like the color of their hair, you know. So I wanted to make sure that we got that out, but what the qualifications are. Since we've already said it, if you feel that we should do it, then do it. And just find a day that 2 people can get together and look at those applications, that's all.
Okay.
Whatever you guys
Put in-
want.
I think actually I was one of the ones who did that last time, and, we got together for about 20 minutes just to go over them all.
Yeah.
And in a way, it was redundant because, of course, the real footwork was done by Ms. Kovarai, who
Right.
called the registrar of voters to confirm that they were
Yeah.
registered.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most important things.
Right.
Is to know that
Yeah,
they're.
and then we did double check the addresses to make sure they're within our boundaries.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's up to you guys what you want to do.
It's trivial if you want to do it.
So, since we've opened up the discussion, and it seems like there's a sentiment, at least from what I'm hearing, to not do it this way. Do we have any other comments on that, or?
Do you feel we should?
I agree. I don't feel that that it's necessary. It may seem a bit redundant. I think we could move forward to do it collectively. So if we do have a motion on the floor to not have a two-person ad hoc committee and move forward collectively versus to have a two-member committee, I mean, I'd like to ask from the board trustee.
So we're just deciding whether we want to have a
Right.
two-member committee.
Two-member
Right.
committee.
Okay.
So if we,
Okay, so I would think that once we get it established, whether it's whoever's going to do the screening, so whatever we call it, then is that when the board gets those copies?
So the board gets the copies when the agenda is released. The board gets the backup copies when the agenda is released.
Okay. So, and that's at the end of the month, you said?
It's about, what is it? It's a Thursday before the board meeting, so it would be the 14th? No, the 21st. 21st, yeah.
So we'll get that at that time to prepare
Oh,
ourselves
yes,
for
of
the
course.
meeting.
Mhm.
The other thing I was going to ask you is, so when the announcement goes out, they're going to be told the day that there are going to be interviews? Is that it?
The announcement that's gone out to request applications states that interviews will be held at the board meeting of June 27th. And,
Now, I don't remember you mentioning that, but is that going to be before our meeting?
It's during the meeting, yes.
So we can have a short meeting or a long meeting?
The only item of substance is going to be the interviews of the
Okay.
board candidates. There will be some consent items. Actually, the other items of substance is approving the LCAP and approving the budget. But that's the most important.
equal importance,
But
yeah.
But by then, we'll already have all the information.
You'll
ahead of
have,
time.
yeah, you'll have seen the LCAP probably 5 times by then, and the budget as well. So, yeah, and
All right,
then
that's good.
we can interview the board candidates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Superintendent Vidales, may I ask?
Yes.
Are there any applicants already? Or?
We've received a couple of inquiries, and I've received one application.
Okay.
Oh, but we have the application out already? Or you just a letter?
Well, the application is a cover sheet, a resume, and a cover letter. Yeah.
Oh. So they knew already about, so this person already knew about doing it ahead of time?
Yes, it's been in newspapers. It's been at every
I don't see it in
library.
the newspaper,
It's been
Bernie.
Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday Chronicle, and the San Mateo County Times
So you
are the
did put
two
it
that
in
we
the
put them in.
Chronicle.
Yes.
Good. Well, that's why you got someone coming through.
Yep.
I thought you
And-
told me you weren't doing that.
No, I said we could, and I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Well, I
you.
move that we
That's
move
good.
forward without the two-person ad hoc committee.
Second.
So we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good. All right.
All right. So moving forward, we have removed 10A from the consent agenda, so we're opening that one up for discussion, curriculum and instruction pupil personal services. And the item is State Preschool Agency Annual Report. The administration recommends acknowledging the receipt of the State Preschool Agency Annual Report submitted for the board's information as directed by the California Department of Education.
I took it off the star off because I wanted to thank very much Lisa Zaminga for the many years of service over at preschool. And she's been a devoted employee. And just to say thank you, because this is a product of your leadership as well. So I didn't think I could say it if the star was on there. So I had no questions. It was wonderful. So
Yeah.
just wanted to do that.
Thank you, Trustee Brusuela. I would say that it's very important that we acknowledge great work, and I will say that I echo those sentiments. So we thank you. We thank you very much for your service and your commitment to our students. And so, do we have a motion to approve this item?
I'll make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the State Preschool Agency Annual Report submitted for our information as directed by the California Department of Education. And thank you to Lisa Zaminga.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we have business and financial procedures, and our first item of discussion here is the Keygen Corporation presentation on possible future district general obligation bonds. And we will be receiving information from a representative from Keygen Corporation, which will provide a presentation on possible future general obligation bonds. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Vidalis, and staff. So tonight's presentation we'll review Jefferson Elementary School District in particular, and we'll also talk about some potential bond scenarios. Districts regularly explore bonds to address potential needs such as site-specific or general updates. Workforce housing is a big discussion item here in the Bay Area and or unfinished projects. So Bernie and Julie asked me to come here tonight to discuss a bond as a possible item. So we'll start first with some of the debt that's currently outstanding for Jefferson Elementary School District. Up on the table to the top is Measure H. That was the measure approved in November of 2001 for $52 million. All of that authorization has been accessed. You can see to the left, issued in 2002, 2004, and 2005, in total for $52 million. And to the very far right, what's currently outstanding of that measure is about $1.1 million. And that's low because certain of those bonds have since been refinanced for taxpayer savings. Measure I on the bottom of the chart is the most recent bond measure approved in November of 2012 for $67.5 million. And you can see to the left, that authorization has been fully accessed as well. 4 bond issuances issued in 2013, 14, 15, and 17, and of that original measure, about $61.2 million is currently outstanding. This next slide represents the 4 series of general obligation bonds that are outstanding, bonds issued in 07, 12, 13, and 2017. So in aggregate of your new money bonds and your refunding bonds, the district has about $97.6 million in outstanding principal of bonds approved in 2001 and 2012. So let's take a look at the statutory indebtedness limit. The state has a limit for elementary school districts of how much in bonds you can have outstanding at any given time. It's 1.25% multiplied by your assessed valuation, which currently stands just shy of $10 billion. So $9.9 billion multiplied by 1.25% gets us $124.2 million. You deduct your outstanding bonds of $97 million, so there is available bonding capacity of $26.5 million. Now, that has no impact as to what districts can ask voters to approve, and in fact, the State Board of Education regularly approves waivers if it's necessary for the statutory indebtedness limit. Let's take a look at your assessed value. This is the value of all taxable property within district boundaries, your residential, your commercial, your industrial properties. It excludes churches, nonprofits, schools, and governmental properties. So on the chart to the right, you can see the history going back to 1989, when your district was $2.1 billion of assessed valuation. 30 years later, you're at $9.9 billion, and you've had 8 years of consecutive assessed valuation growth since the last recession in the 08-09 period, where you declined 3.82%. You've since grown significantly, and as of May 30th, 2018, the San Mateo County Assessed Value Tracker has you growing potentially another 7% for the 18-19 fiscal year. We're constantly monitoring that, so that figure could change. To the very bottom is a growth statistic, which we'll refer to on a later slide. Your 25-year annualized average is about 5%. That's a very healthy growth rate, and you'll see whenever districts have bond programs, you do make some assumption for future growth, and the history does serve as a guide to see what you might do in the future. So let's talk about interest rates. And if you take a look at the chart to the right, that's interest rates over the past 2 calendar years. You can see in November 2016, interest rates spiked following the surprise presidential election results. And the reason why interest rates spiked was the presidential administration had campaigned on increased infrastructure spending, deregulation, tax cuts, and those could cause inflation. So interest rates rose. Then you see over calendar year 2017, interest rates started to decline again. We had missile strikes in Syria. We had potential nuclear war with North Korea, although we'll see where that unfolds. And so rates came down. And in 2018, rates are up again. And what happened? We have the new tax bill, which lowered individual tax rates, cut the corporate tax rate, and that is going to perhaps increase some of the economic data, and inflation is back in the discussion. All of the volatility aside, you take a look at the chart to the left, and we're still at 50-year lows of interest rates. So when districts do issue bonds, the lower the interest rate, the more proceeds you get for your tax dollars. So the next few slides are going to be a lot of data. We've got 5 scenarios of potential bonds for Jefferson Elementary School District. And so this scenario 1 is, if you were to say, what's the maximum amount of bonds that we can issue? Under Proposition 39, elementary school districts get a tax rate limit of $30 per 100,000. So if you look at the chart to the top right, if you were to utilize that $30 and issue bonds according to the colored bars to maintain a level of $30, we could get about $89 million if you issued bonds approximately every 2 years. So you would access all of your proceeds over 6 years. The assumptions that we're utilizing is interest rates of 4.5% to 6%. If you were to issue bonds today, you'd be below 4%. So we have some cushion built in on higher interest rates. Assessed valuation growth rates, 2%, 3%, and 4% thereafter, versus the 5% historical rate that you've seen over the past 30 years. And we also utilize 100% current interest bonds. You might recall those are the bonds that pay regular interest as opposed to deferring the interest, so those come at a lower cost of borrowing. So under this scenario, taking a look at the repayment ratios on the table to the top left, debt service divided by principal, there is a legislative cap of 4 to 1. So if you issue $10 million, your principal and interest can exceed $40 million. Under the higher interest rate assumptions, you can see we're just about half of the legislative limit at a very cost-effective 2 to 1 repayment ratio. So now let's look at different iterations of tax rates and how you access your bonds. Under scenario 2, if you were to ask voters to approve a more modest tax of $11.50 and get all of your proceeds in a single series of bonds, you could access about $25 million. That would have a repayment ratio of about 1.82 to 1, similar assumptions as to scenario 1. Scenario 3 is if you were to say, we don't need all $25 million at once, we need $15 million for the first tranche, and a few years later we can access the remaining $15 million. Under this scenario, for a similar tax of $11.30, you can access $30 million over a 3-year period, again under similar assumptions. And I'll have a summary page so you don't have to remember all of this data. Scenario 4 says $30 million doesn't quite give us all the proceeds we need. How about $45 million accessed in equal installments of $22.5 million, again spaced 2 years apart? Under this scenario, you would need a tax rate just below $17 at $16.95. And this last scenario 5 is if you were to space it out similar to your prior Measure H and Measure I, where you access over 3 to 4 financings. In this scenario, $15 million every 2 years gets you $45 million at a tax rate of about $15.80 per 100,000 of assessed value. So if we look at the summary page, you can see scenario 1 is your maximum scenario of 89 million, requiring a tax rate of $30 over 29 years. And then scenarios 2, 3, 4, and 5 are illustrations as to 1 series of bonds, 3 series of bonds, lower tax rate, higher tax rate. And as you can imagine, there's an infinite combination of scenarios we can run. If there's a need, we can determine based on your tax rate, your assessed valuation, and the timing of your needs, what the right tax rate is, what the right amount of proceeds is. And to the extent the district is considering an election, your next opportunity, we just had an election in June, your next Prop 39 opportunity would be in November 6, 2018. And in order to qualify for that ballot, you would need to identify whatever your project needs might be. That gets memorialized into a resolution prepared by your bond counsel. And the documents would be submitted to the county registrar of voters 88 days prior to the election, bless you. And that would be August 10th, 2018. And if a measure is put before the voters, the election date is November 6th, 2018. So with that, I know there's a lot of data here and considerations. Would welcome any questions you may have.
Yes, I was wondering, could you explain exactly what it means when the outstanding amounts, like, so for instance, the 1 million, no, what is it? 1 billion?
1.1 million?
Yeah, 1.1 million. What exactly does that mean?
Yes, so it's the 2005 series of bonds under Measure H was originally issued for $17 million, and that financing at the time that it was issued was a 25-year financing. So as time goes on, certain amounts of the principal have been paid off. The reason why there's 1.1 million remaining, and it has a final maturity of September 1, 2020, those bonds were paid off by a series of refinancing bonds, and that one specifically is, that was done in 2013. So the 2013 refunding bonds have an outstanding principal amount of 14.955 million.
So just to give a little background about why we asked Keegan to come and prepare this information for you, there have been a series of projects that have been discussed by the board, and as we looked at our Measure I funds, was not going to be able to meet all those desires. Principally, I think we have discussed the idea of creating sort of safe and secure schools with fencing and improved drop-off and pickup locations at our school sites where we're able to make those improvements. Other things that have been discussed by the board were the development and improvement sort of our outdoor learning spaces. You know, this goes anywhere from our fields to many schools are moving toward gardens and creating learning spaces, classrooms outside. And all of those spaces, they would need to be made accessible to individuals who have mobility issues. And so that would tackle some of that opportunity. And then lastly, I think attracting and retaining qualified staff has been a goal for the board for a while. We heard from Education Housing Partners, and their prognosis, their analysis brought us right to the edge of what we thought might be affordable or might actually make a difference for our staff. We've experienced in just some recent projects that we put out to bid, the escalation of construction costs 2 to 3 times more than what we expected with small projects. And I can't imagine what it would look like in a larger project. And so there may be, if we had an opportunity to use some voter-approved bond funds to help offset some of the loan that we would have to take as a district, that our residents would have to pay, it may actually make it more affordable. So those are just 3 things that have, that I've collected from your discussions around priorities that you have and that you would like to see completed, and wanted to bring this information to you to determine if there was a desire to bring a resolution to the board based on any of those funding levels.
So the 5 scenarios were presented. Are there enough, I think from what you described, there should be enough projects to sort of even fill scenario 1, is that correct?
Yeah, scenario 1 is probably the most generous one. I'm not sure that I would recommend scenario 1. I would look probably at scenario 2 and 3. Is that right? Yeah, 2 and 3 would be the ones that I think would have the greatest opportunity to work for us in terms of the needs that we have and the issuances that we want to have.
Cool. I have a second question. I don't think it's for Keegan to answer, but I realize that normally when we have this kind of stuff, there's discussion about polling the residents. I don't know if this came to play for this one as well, too.
No, we did not do the polling, partially because we know we've done polls before, and it's always attracting and retaining qualified teachers comes up at the top. I think in this current climate, safe and secure schools is a priority for any community that I think voters would support if we can demonstrate how we're going to use funds to achieve that. And the last is, the creating, developing, and improving our outdoor learning spaces. That's a gift to our community. They use our facilities. They would use our fields if they could run on them, but they don't because they can't run on them. So I think, that's a plus for the community that we could create that.
So thank you. I appreciate the overview. The numbers can be very overwhelming, but I love that you have the profile because I think for me, at least, it's very helpful, and the scenarios are very helpful. I think everything that you touched on, Superintendent Vidales, are things that we definitely want to see, even teacher retention and the other projects that we have in the pipeline. I do want to speak to next steps if this is something, if we could get that feedback, because I'm looking at the timeline and it's pretty tight. In order for us to make this happen, I mean, we would be looking at this happening within a month as far as next steps.
Yes, and so if you wouldn't mind, what are the requirements for a Prop 39 bond? It must be a general election, is that correct? Or what are the requirements? So if it's not in November of 2018, the next opportunity would be?
March 2020. So you touched on it. It's any regularly scheduled election, state primary, general election, and there are districts that still have odd year board elections. Those are opportunities as well.
Yeah, so we no longer have odd year board elections. So we have odd board members, but not odd year elections. So you have an odd superintendent as well. So we match.
With that said, I'm just wondering if there was more dialogue on continuing this conversation, considering the timeline and how we could look at that. We are an even year, but I'm just wondering if this is something that we want to do. I just want to make sure that we're mindful of the timelines for the opportunity to
I agree.
pursue it.
Yeah, I agree. When I looked at the timeline, it seemed like we would be under a crunch, and just the campaigns that I've been a part of since I've been on the board, and hearing from Ms. Brizuela, I wouldn't want us to rush anything. I would want us to do it correctly and make sure that we actually win. So I was concerned about the timeline as well if we were trying to do it for this cycle.
Well, I'm just going to say something that I hope history doesn't repeat itself. But do we still know the results yet of the high school district?
The final results are not out, but it does not look like it passed.
Okay, so let me just say this. The last time that we did a measure 6 months after they did theirs, we lost. Because to this day, too many people who are voters don't understand that it's two separate districts. they see Jefferson School District. They don't think, and then when we were going, knocking on doors and saying, trying to get people to vote for it, they said, we just voted for you guys. And we said, no, it's a different district. Well, get it together, they said. Why aren't you doing it together? So I'm afraid that it's going to cost us money, because it does cost money to put a ballot measure, because we have to pay for it, the school district does, that we're going to be following. Now, if they win this election, their election, the high school district, people probably will not support it because they just supported one. On the other hand, if they lose, then we better not get started, because I think some of the people don't want to have to pay. Because, correct me if I'm right on this, this election means that people will have to pay based on their taxes or something?
Based on the value of their homes.
The value of their property. So if you do, I know just the areas that I live in, and I hear about the other areas, that we probably have more people living in these areas that are renters and not owners. But that doesn't help things, because they know if they vote for it, the owner's going to raise their rent anyway. But I think it's something we better be sure that what we're doing. I don't want to have another loss. I was here when we had that loss. And I think we need to be really careful and see what happens. So
Yeah.
I want the affordable housing. I thought that was almost going to be a done deal, and we were going to go for it. And all of a sudden, like that, I get the message, oh no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. So I'm just saying, let's make sure we don't rush into this. I agree with what you said. Make sure we look at it and make a good decision. But if we rush into it and we lose, then we've lost the money we already have in the bank.
Yeah. So we are paying for the election in 2020 already, because it is a board election year, so we're already paying, participating in it. So it would be just a bit more, not that much more. The other.
How much more?
How much more?
Here's another issue. You know now that everything is going out to everyone to vote.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Where before it was only the frequent voters that were voting, the people that really cared. Now all kinds of people are voting. So it is going to cost more than it's ever cost before.
So I don't have a horse in this race, so to speak, but I did want the board to be able to discuss this, so that December 2020, you don't say, why didn't we have something on the ballot? We could have had something. Why didn't you bring that to us to decide? So I need you to give me direction on that. The other thing is that there's an opportunity. It is likely to have high voter turnout. School bond measures do better when there's a high voter turnout. I will look at, in the next week or two, have someone look at what the precinct results were for the high school measure. I don't know if it was the Jefferson Elementary School District voters that were not in favor of it. It could be Brisbane and Pacifica. Generally, so I will be able to look at that, and I did see some opportunities to do that on the website, the registrar's website, that shows by precinct how many in favor, how many against.
Okay.
So I think we could be able to analyze it that way, and if it looks like it is significantly over 55%, because our high school district, they did what I like to call sort of a stealth campaign. It was not a campaign. They've been very successful in the past with stealth campaigns. This was probably the stealthiest that they've run, and basically they asked their voters to say, is this something that you would support? And if so, we can move forward with it. And if it's not, we'll figure out a potentially other way. They only had one issue on that ballot. We would combine it with two others as well, which I think makes the argument stronger. But again, it's the board's decision. I don't think any of us have the energy, but we can muster it if we want to launch a campaign. But we could just say, let's try it and see what happens. And if the voters support this, great. Our housing especially is going to be much more affordable. if voters support the project versus the development needing to take out a loan and having the residents pay that loan with the interest over time. So it's up to the board.
So I have a couple questions. So one, I realize that there is a board election this November. So if there was this added on, it would be the same exact amount of cost as it would be for 2020. Is that correct? Or is that different?
Yeah, you know, I wish Ms. Kovarai was here because she gets the invoices, but there might be just the cost of printing of the voter material that goes out, the additional 2 or 3 pages that get added to that booklet that we would have to pay for. But the election is already happening, the poll workers are there, you know, it's, so the actual cost of the election, we're already paying for.
Okay.
Our portion of it, and I think it's just however more pages this would require of that booklet that we'd pay for.
Cool. I got a couple more questions. One is a question for Keejan. So I realize you have a projection up through 2018, 2019. Do you have any idea what projections could be beyond 2019 to like 2020, 2021? I guess in terms of the district value, assessed value.
I think that's a tough question. If you were to ask people, well, you know, we are 9 years into, you know, a bull market, and might there be a correction? There's talk of higher interest rates, but at the same time, and I think it's an issue up and down the state, there's not a lot of houses for sale relative to meet the demand, so there is a lot of pent-up demand for real estate values. And one of the things that's pretty interesting, and it might speak to your question on the cost from earlier, the median assessed value of homes, of a single-family home within Jefferson Elementary School District is $369,772. So let's say $370,000 is the median assessed value of a home. You can't actually buy a home for $370,000.
That's extreme. I'll buy 6 of them.
And so what's interesting is, even if a home price were, you know, just for easy numbers, $1 million, and it declined 25% to $750,000, if that home sold, your AV would still go up 50%. So I think that's an important thing to think about, is that the tax is based on the assessed valuation and not on the market value. So if we were to look at scenario 2 or scenario 3, which the superintendent said might be more palatable, for a tax rate of $11.50, if your assessed valuation and you're an older resident is at $370,000, that annual tax amount is about $45 per year. So that's what it means in real dollars. But no, I don't know where your assessed valuation is going.
No, I realize, like, if we push it off to 2020 or beyond, how does that affect the overall in terms of the off scenario? That's the question. I realize if it's too far out, you can't really actually make a projection off of that. Yeah. Question for the superintendent. So is it, are we taking, we're not taking action tonight on this?
No,
We're
you're
taking
just
direction.
providing me direction to come back to you at a future meeting, which likely will be the July meeting, because the June meeting, we're going to be doing board interviews to consider a resolution.
So if you're coming back to the July meeting, would you need to then have pretty much all the actions listed in the timeline slide pretty much ready to go? Is that pretty much what the plan is?
I have a question for Superintendent Vidales. So are you suggesting that we do a stealth, well, it sounded like you're saying that we wouldn't even really do a campaign, we would just put it on the ballot and not pay to run a full-blown campaign? Okay.
Well, the district doesn't pay to run a campaign in either way, so there would be a campaign committee that's formed, and I think it'd be up to that campaign committee to decide if they wanted to do and raise funds to do a big campaign, or if they wanted to see what the voters might decide with minimal information, minimal campaigning. So, it really is up to that campaign committee to decide how they wanted to approach this. That's not our role, but that we could do it lightly, we could do it heavily.
So then the urgency and the time-sensitive part would be the logistics of forming that committee.
Well, the committee doesn't form until the board votes to to put a measure on the ballot. So, if the board felt like they wanted to wait until the 2020 election, that would be doable. I mean, there may be some projects that don't get done. We finish our Measure I funds, and once we get a constructability analysis, a more detailed one from RGM, we'll be able to see what their more current estimates are for the cost of the project. And it may mean that we just put off that, or we decide that we're going to take the loan and it looks like it's doable for our residents. I never said we're not going to do workforce housing. I just said that a bond measure may make it even more affordable for our staff who live in them that don't have to pay back a loan with the increasing rates that loans are getting now.
Okay. So that changes what I was saying a little bit. Yeah. So it sounds like we can make a decision even tonight about whether we want to go after a bond or not, but then we could wait until 2020 or decide if we want to do it now.
Well, you'll decide that when you have the resolution before you. But if you tell me, Mr. Vidalis, cook up something and bring it to us to consider at our July meeting, then I could do that, and then you can have the discussion at that time. And you can, I will see what kind of analysis I can get about precinct results in Daly City for Measure J, to see how supportive our community is of a measure that includes workforce housing. Again, it's not the same measure, it's not the same language. There are more things that I think are of interest to a community member with safe and secure schools and creation and developing outdoor learning spaces, in addition to attracting and retaining qualified staff. So it may result differently, but if we did have a similar one with just a similar language, what might the support be? And I could have that to you when I get that, when I can figure out how to do it for all our precincts. Yeah.
Mr. Vidal,
Thank you.
could you find out either from the high school district or call the county, find out what the actual dollar amount is to have a measure on the ballot? Because I'm hearing it, you're saying it's only a couple of pages in the book, but I think there's more to that.
Yes, we will be able to find that out, but tonight, I just want to hear, I can have that information. If you say, yes, let's consider that at our July meeting, and I can have that information for you at the July meeting or prior, so you can help you make that decision. I don't know if there's an opportunity to get that information. I can try prior to that, and for you to give me direction. I don't know if there's an opportunity for you to give me direction outside of today's meeting.
I would be interested in just seeing a couple scenarios and just kind of project list, because we don't have to consider it. We don't have to vote yes, right?
No.
At the July meeting, but just getting the options, I think, is better than not having at all, right? In case we do want to move forward with some of the projects. So that's why.
So from what I've heard so far from our trustees, I would like to please chime in for our next meeting, Superintendent Vidalis, if we could look at the data from this past election, and then also some concrete numbers, if possible, from the Department of Elections to see what that cost would look like. I mean, because I think we have enough information to be able to make a determination at our July meeting, but that would actually be able to guide us in making that final decision.
Yeah, and
Sound okay with it?
and I think, depending on the number of candidates that we have that want to be interviewed for the board, if the number is small, we may be able to fit a discussion on this at the June meeting to provide further direction. Otherwise, if we have, how many, 11 or 10 that we had back then, that took a full meeting and a half, and we were here late. So I don't think there's an opportunity for that discussion at that meeting. So we'll know more by next Wednesday for sure when the deadline comes.
So you know what we're kind of worried about, so if we get all that information, that'd be great, but if not, we're taking a gamble,
Yes.
a big gamble.
Yeah.
It's always a gamble. It does look, if I can just throw in, I know it's kind of past when I have influence, but it does seem like at some point in the not-too-distant future, even leaving aside the question of contributions to the workforce housing, we need the bond, that we have more construction that needs to be done in our district than we can ever pay for. So I do want to say that also about the workforce housing, I think it's good to have other projects in mind, because I did hear some rumbles on the high school one. I can hardly afford to live here. It's great to give them affordable housing, but hey, my salary hasn't gone up, sort of comments. So, I mean, you can certainly understand, given the cost of housing here, where not everybody may feel quite so benign about helping to make it easier for others to live here while they're struggling.
I agree with you on that, and the fact that what you said, Mr. Vidalis, was about the safety of the schools is very good. But I don't think everybody's going to be crazy about saying outdoor classrooms. The fog is better. I mean, it's not like it's the place to go, but I do like the fact you say safe schools, things like that.
We have been at several board meetings talking about we need more green space in our schools. So I think,
yeah, we have it, but we don't use them.
Well,
But I'm just
but we
saying-
do use the playing fields and things. I mean, and that's what you're really talking about, isn't it?
It's an aspect of that.
Yeah.
It's an aspect of that, that category.
But that's going to require a better agreement with the city of Daly City, because they use the facility.
Oh, that's
more
just
than we do.
one field that they use. They do. There are fields at other middle schools that nobody uses, and we don't.
Well, the
I think
Gophers.
the Gophers use them,
The Gophers
and
on
they
the
love
field.
it. But I think that it would be something where we would retain control of the scheduling of that.
yeah.
I hope
Because
so.
because we're it would be part of the bond measure. So.
Thank you.
Lot to think about.
Thank you for continuing to enlighten us, Dr. Douglas. It's definitely going to miss that. Yeah, and especially considering the timeline. So we look forward to getting that from you, Superintendent Vidalis. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So in June, you're going to get it, June?
We're hoping, and we'll, if we can fit it into the June as a conversation, we will do so. If not, we'll have the conversation as you're considering it.
Okay.
And you can vote no, that's fine. But I did want to have the board to have that opportunity.
Okay, and thank you, Kegent, for your Kegent Corporation for the presentation this evening. Appreciate it. A lot of good information.
Is this, okay, so did it come off with something?
The last-
That was your back
I think that's
page.
your back page. Sorry, I can take it. You can-
Take it. No worries.
Somebody's coming on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, we will move forward with presentation regarding fiscal year 2018-19, our budget development. And the administration will present the fiscal year 2018-19 proposed budget based on District 18-19 LCAP and preliminary multi-year financial projection for the district. Thank you, Ms. Kessler.
Good evening. Well, the last meeting, I gave you a whole lot of information, and I gave it to you really fast. And there's a lot of this, and that's what this budget is built on. And so I will just briefly go over some of the highlights that we went over last time, and let you know what's on this budget. So again, we have the COLA, and if you recall, last time we were talking about the COLA is actually 2.71%, and they augmented it by 0.2, or the governor proposed to augment it by 0.29% to increase the LCFF to 3%. So just want to let you know that what the legislature is coming out with, it looks like it's probably going to be increased to 3.7%. Which is going to be really good. And I'll tell you, I'll talk a little bit more about that at the numbers. But when we revise the budget, we would increase that to 3.7 if that's what they do. We don't have time to do that before because it's not actually passed yet. And so we certainly don't want to be revising the budget before we actually know what will happen. And of course, the 100% gap funding for all years out, and our ADA. And of course, this, again, is the big deal for this district. Are we going to continue to experience declining enrollment? Are we going to level out? Are we going to increase? So, and that is like one of the biggest things for this district. Our unduplicated count is strong. It seems to be back on track. But again, minimum wage goes up January 1st to $12 an hour, and of course that affects our free and reduced student population. It could reduce them. Hopefully it won't, just because they need this free and reduced subsidies. Step and column is in here, and of course the really, really big elephants in the room are the STRS and the PERS contributions that continue to increase, and I do have more information on that later on, what that cost looks like to the district. But as you can see, at this point, STRS flattens out. It stops increasing. It's going to stop at 19.1%, and PERS continues to go up after these years here. Oops. Okay. So these are what the numbers look like in the budget. At 100% funding, the base amount for our funding level will be $47 million. Our supplemental and concentration grant combined is nearly $11 million. It's a very big portion of it. And so the funding would be $57.5 million for 18-19. And again, if we increase the COLA from 3% to 3.7%, we'll have approximately almost $400,000 more. So this would go up from $57,400,000 to $57,800,000. So the increase over last year is a $3 million increase, and that would become basically a $3.5 million increase over last year. However, as well, the legislature has more than cut this in half. So the one-time funds that we expected to be $2 million would go down to, for us, approximately just under $1 million. So they cut this in half and gave us $400,000 more up here. But the $400,000 more that we would be getting for the increased LCFF funding would be ongoing. Whereas, so when you think about our multi-year projection, if we have $400,000 for 3 years, it's $1.2 million in those 3 years. That would be included in the budget, whereas we'll be losing $1 million from here. So it's almost a push, but the funding that we would be getting would be better in the sense that it's ongoing. So again, in the budget that you will be seeing, we have $2 million in one-time funds, but we have less funds in the LCFF. Okay, so some of the major expenditures that we might want to talk about, or actually just review, that we're going to be having is our Chromebooks for our 6th graders. This is our 3rd round, and it's an ongoing expenditure that we do each year now because we want all the kids to have the devices. And then we're continuing to support the split reduction of the split classes for K through 3 and reduction in class size in the middle schools. Something I want to point out here is this year in this budget, we have it for 18-19. We do not have it in the out years. And the reason for doing this is because we have to now budget more conservatively. In the past, we've always been able to, less conservatively. In the past, we've been able to be more conservative and budget for all the out years. But if we budget for all the out years, we won't be able to meet our 3% reserve, and we'll have to have more cuts. So we're proactively not budgeting it, and in the following years, if we have a need and if we have the funds, we can choose to go ahead and continue to support that. but I just bring it up because there's 3 items here that you'll see that we've stopped budgeting in the out years. And we need to do that in order to meet our reserve. We are continuing to expand special ed. And so in 1819, we're adding a special day class, and in 1920, another special day class. Again, if we don't add these classes and we have these students go to county classes, the county classes are extremely expensive. We have one student there is like almost having a whole teacher here, because it's not just the cost of the class, it's also the transportation to get them to and from. So unless they're really severe students and have really severe needs, and pretty much we don't have classes for that, we are trying to bring those students back. We continue to try to do that. So that is in this year and then the out year as well. And then the resource coordinator, that's in the budget for next year. And the furniture replacement, we do have it in the budget next year for one school. And then the out years, we've removed that because, again, if we have the funds, then we will consider, and the need, then we will consider putting it in the budget. But for now, we won't be able to meet our reserve if we continue it in the out years. And then also the technology reserve. Well, fortunately, the technology reserve has grown nicely, and this year we are contributing $500,000. We're going to contribute only $200,000 next year, and then we're going to stop contributing. We do, for now, we do have a nice reserve there, and at one point we have to say, okay, we've got a good enough reserve. It's for really big items, like when we redid the whole wireless system in the district. That's what this is for, because it doesn't last forever. But we have stopped it for the out years, again, because we need to be able to meet our 3% reserve, and all these things add up. I told you I was going to talk a little bit more about the STRS and PERS. So what I've done here is I've taken 18-19 through 21-22, because that's what the multi-year projection, what I'm going to show you, even though the 21-22 is not in the official one, it is in the one I'm going to show you. So in those years combined, the amount that we would be paying in excess of this current year, 17-18, what we're in right now, would be $4.9 million more for STRS and $2.3 million more for PERS during this 4-year period, which is $7.2 million that we're going to be paying for PERS and STRS. Now, when we go back to this other slide here and we talk about this increase, when I go back and I look at all the increases over those same 4 years, our increases would be approximately just under $23 million for increased money that we would be getting in the next 4 years. 1/3 of that is needed to pay for the $7 million. So 1/3 of the next 4 years of increased revenues will be used just to pay for the STRS and PERS.
And Julie, could I stop you for a moment? When you went back to the first,
This one
yeah,
or this one?
that one,
Uh-huh.
it was showing that the cost for STRS and PERS, that's for the employee's contribution?
That's for
Employer.
the employer.
Okay, then when we go on this other page, and you're saying that on the bottom here, why is it costing more for STRS than PERS when the other one is the other way around?
Oh, well, okay. So
Does
you
that
see
make
the
sense? Does that make
percentages for
sense?
PERS are more, but we don't have we have more teachers. And so the teachers are getting STRS, and the teacher salaries are higher, and also the number of teachers are higher. So multiplying the teachers' salaries by 19%, the increase amount, causes a much greater increase in STRS than PERS.
Okay, I was just wondering why, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
No, that's all right.
Thank you.
No, that was a good question, because sometimes you look, how come that? Yeah. So,
I thought it was just getting late here, and I wasn't adding right. You know.
and I just want to let you know that just these years alone, if we didn't have to do this, this amount would equal for 18, 19, 19, 20, 18, 19, and 19, 20, it would be equivalent of a 1.5% increase to salaries if we didn't have to pay that. And in 2021, it would be a 1% increase. So, I mean, 0.5%, 1.5 is 3, and another one is 4%. And let's not forget about all the years that have passed that we've been increasing, millions of dollars of increases. So though we got money over the years, the state has put it on our backs to pay for the increase in STRS and PERS. And that, though it benefits employees, it's for the retirement. It's the retirement they were supposed to be getting already anyway.
Yeah.
And we just have to pay more towards it. So they're not getting anything new. And because of this, if we add it all together, it would probably be at least 10% increase that we would be able to give to salaries, which we can't because the funds are going to the retirement.
Okay.
So I've said several times in the past slide about the not budgeting in the out years some of these expenditures so that we can meet our reserve. In order to meet our 3% reserve in the 2021 year, we would have to make reductions of $2.5 million in order. And again, yes, we're getting more LCFF funds, but our one-time funds we've lost there. So over the 3-year period, we lose $1 million in the one-time. We gain $1.2 million in LCFF. That's $200,000 more in 3 years that we get as a result of this budget. I was really hoping that it would be twice as much with the ongoing that they did. They did cut it in half like I thought, the one time, but I was hoping they would give us twice as much in the ongoing. So anyway, again, in 2021, we would have to reduce 2.5 million. And in 2022, provided the 2.5 million was ongoing, that was reduced in 2021, we would only need to reduce another 200,000, which actually we wouldn't have to do now with this extra 200,000 I was talking about. So that part would kind of be nixed. But I do want to point out to you that when we come to you with our unaudited actuals, we do expect, it is still more conservative, we do expect that, and you'll see it on the other slide, that our deficit spending won't be as bad as it looks. And I would say probably to about a tune of $1 million per year. So $1 million this year, next year, and the following year would keep us from having to make these reductions, right? And so given that, we may not have to make these reductions. However, I still want to point out that in the budget, that the proposed budget, there are no increases for salaries outside of step and column. Now, the majority of staff will be seeing increases in their salary because of step and column. Not everybody, but the majority will, because the step and column is also included in the budget. But there are no negotiated salary increases in the budget. We're still in the process of negotiating next year. And we'll go into the fall and negotiate that when we see what our unaudited actuals look like. But even though it looks like, given what we have now in the budget and our slightly conservative budget, which might bring $1 million of less deficit spending than we have, which is only less than 2% of the budget. It's probably about 0.75% of the budget that is conservatively budgeted, which is not that much. We don't have any kind of negotiated increases in it. So this is what it looks like. It's a full page so that you can see it there this time. This is the important line right here. You see it's deficit spending, deficit spending, deficit spending. This looks like it's only going to $1 million instead of all these higher amounts, but that's because there's a $2.5 million reduction in there already. So this would be $3.5 million deficit spending if the reduction wasn't there, and this would be a $2.7 million deficit spending if the reduction wasn't in there. Again, instead of having a $2.8 or $2.9 million deficit this year, I would expect that it would be somewhere between $1 to $2 million instead. And so that will boost up the reserve and eliminate the need to make these reductions at this point. But what you see out here is eventually you get to the point as we use our reserves, which we intentionally, when all this stuff happened, we intentionally said we're going to use our reserves wisely and determine and give us a time to determine what we need to do. Eventually you get to the point where there's no reserves to use, and so that's when the revenues and the expenditures have to be the same amount. We don't want the expenditures to be more than the revenues at one point. So that eventually, if we continue like this, we will get to that point. But maybe we do. Governor Brown is leaving. He's more conservative with the funding. Maybe they give us ongoing money in the out years instead of always giving one-time money, and they're doing it a little bit. So maybe next year it will be a little bit more. Maybe they raise that LCAP base. This is what happens to our cash. It goes down our end fund balance, and it goes down here, and it stays steady down here because we've got the reductions to match whatever it is that we need. And for now, because the reductions aren't until 2020-21, the county is not going to make us identify what those reductions are. But when that becomes only 1 year out, then we will have to do that. And so that's something we'll, if that happens, we'll have to start identifying what exactly those cuts are going to be. So next steps, this is the typical next steps that we have. You had the public hearing this evening for both the LCAP and for the budget. The budget is built to support what's on the LCAP. The county, we have to have it, the county will respond to us in August, and our unaudited actuals will be out by then as well. And we will, when the state brings its budget together, which should pass pretty much any day now, I think, we'll update our budget accordingly, and the county will no doubt accept our budget. I feel confident about that, and we'll bring back in 45 days the increased budget, increased numbers for the LCAP and the decreased numbers for the one-time funds. And that's it. Do I have any questions?
Do we have any questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Kessler.
No, sure. They asked me a question.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now we move on to Mr. Valenti, certificated personnel. So we have a certificated retirement 2017-18. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from April Regalado, first grade teacher at Westlake Elementary, effective June 16, 2018. Ms. Regalado has been employed by the district since August 25, 2005. And the administration also requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending Ms. Regalado for her years of service with the district.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of opportunity to work with Ms. Vergalato, but I just with the folks, as they get to their retirement, I do want to say thank you again, for their years of service, and I appreciate it, and would recommend that the board accept her at retirement.
I would love to make the motion that we approve the retirement request for April Regalato, first grade teacher from Westlake, effective June 16th, 2018, and that an appropriate resolution be prepared thanking her for her service.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you again, Ms. Regalado, for your service. And now we have classified personnel retirement. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request for the following classified personnel and requests appropriate resolutions be prepared commending them for their years of service with the district. First, we have Florence Wong, Library Tech at TRP, effective June 16, 2018. And Ms. Wong has been employed by the district since September 19, 2000. And then Christian... Sorry, is it Chirambero, Office Assistant, Office Assistant 1, Special Ed, effective June 30th, 2018. And Ms. Chirambero has been employed by the district since September 4th, 1996.
And with this one, Florence and I worked together at both my tours of TRP in the library, and she's a great person. I'm really happy to see her go into her retirement. Christiane was my secretary in my 3 years when I was over at Woodrow, so she just popped over and had lunch today with her person that succeeded her, Nadia, my current executive assistant, so it's great to see them retiring, having a great send-off.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Well, if nobody else will, then I will make the motion. I've run into this retirement concept.
Retired after now, keep going.
That's right. So, yeah, I will recommend that we accept the request of retirement for Florence Wong, effective June 16th, 2018, and Christian Chirambero, effective June 30th, 2018, and that resolutions be prepared thanking them for their years of service.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you again for impeccable service from these individuals. So we now have, we're going to miss you, Rebecca, our board policies, administrative regulations. And I will say that every time I get a folder from you, I'm ecstatic because I'm like, I bet you I don't have to touch any changes because she's marked it all up for me. I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that. You catch.
I'll second that one.
You catch things that I'm like, I did not see that, but she caught it. So definitely going to miss that about you.
Proofreader's eye.
So we have our board policies, administrative regulations, our second reading, and the administration recommends updates to the attached board policies and administrative regulations as modified by county council and stated in a second reading. So do we have any questions or
I had one
motions?
thing I wanted to ask about here. I'm trying to find it. It's on the board policy 5145.11, which was the very last one. I think it was like the very next to last page. There was one item that had, it is on the next to last page, on item 10. It had the, in the red additions, district personnel should provide a copy of these notes and associated documents collected from the officer to the, and then we have a bracketed local educational agencies, legal counsel. Do we need to fill in something specific on that?
I think we can just say local educational agency.
Okay, so remove the brackets in the other part of that. Yeah, that just looked a little unfinished.
See?
I looked hard. I had to find something for it.
Thank you again, Dr. Douglas. So with that edit, do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the board policies and ARs as listed for the second reading with that or correction.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, we have governance team member comments, reports, and reflection on board meeting guidelines. And we will start with you, Dr. Douglas.
Well, I could reflect all night, but I won't, since there's a lot to reflect on at this point for last time. But I just want to say that I think that these are a nice little set of things to remind us of how to behave, and that we do very well with them. That's all I'm going to say.
I selected, we will keep our focus on the best interest of our students. I feel like a lot of what we talked about did that. I just want to say thanks again to Dr. Douglas for everything as well, and for always keeping your focus on the best interest of our students.
Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Brizuela?
I also picked, I've been doing that for every meeting. Focus on the best interest of our students, and that's why we're here.
Thank you. Trustee Ali?
Yes, I chose, excuse me, we will work toward the future, learning from the past. So that's what we're doing tonight as well. We've learned from Dr. Douglas, and now we have to move forward and embrace our future without her.
Yeah. So in honor of you, Dr. Douglas, I chose we will communicate openly and honestly, respect differences, deliberate, and address process. And I know that that is something you've done well, and I've always respected your voice here at the dais. It's definitely going to be different without you, so thank you.
You're welcome. I have to point out that there's an extra comma in that line. I don't think we really want that comma after openly.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't pass that up, but.
No, you're right, take the comma out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sort of sensitive about those because my editor spends a lot of time taking commas out of my writing, so. After openly.
Openly, because you're
You
saying
wanna listen-
openly
Yeah,
and
and.
honestly. That goes
Openly
together.
and honestly, then, yeah.
You don't need to have a comma after openly. And
I was
another
gonna say, you
one,
can fix the slide, we don't have to.
you can also look at the third one, third item, and you're saying openly again, my goodness. You're just
Well,
not
we
supposed
want
to use the
openness.
same, we're not supposed to use the same kind of words for everyone, you gotta think of another word. But that's,
It ain't literature.
anyway. We'll work on it next time we have our
Except for a governance
team
meeting.
building.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Thank you. And thank you for helping us to develop the meeting guidelines. Thank you. So at this time, do we have any persons wishing to address the board on any closed session items? No? Okay. So we will take a 5-minute break before convening to our closed session, but we also have 2 requests for moments of silence and for individuals that we'd like to honor at this time as we adjourn. And the first would be Gladys Moss, a retired teacher at Thomas R. Policita Middle School. And the second is Keenan Bowser, son of Carol Bowser, retired teacher at Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. So if we could take a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. We'll take a short break as